You. I'd like to welcome in now trial lawyer and legal analyst Richard Schoenstein. Richard, thank you so much. Essentially, this is breaking news. So thank you for giving us your time today. We just heard from Caitlin that Sean Combs has yet to be arraigned. What are your thoughts on these announced charges? Do you think more are potentially coming?
I definitely think more is to come. I mean, among other things, the indictment, which was unsealed this morning, the only person named is Sean Combs. Now, it says that he did all of these things in conjunction with other people, but it doesn't name them. It doesn't name the co-conspirators. It doesn't name the victims. It doesn't name witnesses. So there has to be more down the road. And it's going to be very interesting, Nicole, to see exactly who becomes a defendant, because I do expect other prosecutions, who becomes a witness or maybe gets out of being a defendant by being a cooperating witness, and who comes forward as a witness cooperating. It was mentioned that Cassie's lawyer was in court this morning, and I think the supposition is that she's cooperating with this investigation. We have an indictment that says a lot of things that were in her complaint last year.
How massive potentially is this investigation and then the resulting case?
Let me point you to the first two words in the indictment. For decades. The allegation by the prosecutors in the Southern District is that this criminal conduct involving racketeering, involving sex trafficking, involving interstate prostitution, involving arson and kidnapping and other violence has been going on in Sean Combs's ambit in his criminal enterprise for decades. So that's a lengthy period of time. A lot of people, a lot of geographic ground. This is a big investigation and a really big case.
Absolutely. Do you think, Richard, that he will, in fact, remain in custody, or do you think he will be granted bond?
That's a great question. I think there's a pretty good chance he's going to stay in custody. That is certainly what the government is seeking, and they're basing that both on the severity of the allegations against him, the fact that the grand jury came out with the indictment, and on the fact that he's a flight risk. I mean, he has significant resources. He could disappear. Now, he's going to argue two things. One, he's going to argue that he's cooperated. He cooperated with the investigation. He came to New York to be indicted. He is defending himself, but cooperating. And I think he might also argue that he's essentially too famous to hide, that he couldn't go anywhere in the world and not be found, so that running away would be futile. He may argue that. I think it's a really close call, but a good chance he stays in jail for now.
So let's talk about that, because his attorney mentioned that, we heard that sound there during Caitlin's report, the attorney saying, hey, he relocated to New York last week in anticipation of these charges. Does that type of cooperation make a difference?
It can make a difference. I mean, I don't know if it was a big deal that he flew to New York to get indicted rather than, trying to avoid it. He wasn't going to be able to successfully avoid getting indicted. So I think he might get some points for that, but not that many.
What kind of impact, Richard, will that settlement with Cassie Ventura, Sean Diddy Combs' former romantic partner, the person we saw in that hotel video, which we then saw him issue that apology on social media. What kind of impact will that settlement potentially have on this investigation and case?
Well, I don't know that the settlement should have any impact, because you should never read anything into the fact that somebody settled a lawsuit. That just means they didn't feel good. They could have a lot of different reasons for settling the lawsuit. The amazing thing to me was that lawsuit was brought and settled the next day. And I said at the time, I don't understand, and I still don't understand, how Sean Combs's team let that thing get filed if they were only going to settle it the next day. The whole point of settling a lawsuit like that is to prevent it from getting settled. They surely had some discussions prior to being filed, and now we see what's happened because it was filed. I think 8 other lawsuits and now a criminal indictment. Disastrous for Diddy.
All right, my last question for you. we know that this is a massive investigation, as you pointed out. The U.S. attorney there saying 4 decades of investigation. Should any of Sean Combs's associates be concerned right now?
Oh, definitely. I mean, if you're an associate, right, the indictment alleges that his associates helped him commit these heinous crimes, participated in these freak-offs, helped him conceal them. There's allegations about witness intimidation. There's allegations about his associates carrying weapons and intimidating people. Again, I go back to what I said. If you're one of those associates, you got to think about, are you going to be a defendant? Are you better off being a cooperating witness? I wouldn't be surprised if some of those discussions are going on right now.
We will certainly see what happens as this continues to play out. Trial attorney Richard Schoenstein, thank you.
My pleasure.